What is the third biggest asset class in the world as of today? We'll tell you that and a lot more on today's Rebel's Edge. Well, always great to be with you from SIBO Global Markets, Pete, where you and I both started trading.
Yep, you got to love it, man. I mean, there's still active traders out there, and there's still active traders on a lot of different exchanges, which is, you know what, it's sort of unheard of, but there's still a few out there. It's great. I think the open outcry system was still awesome, but it's really difficult in this digital age that we are and how fast things get done. It's amazing they're still able to do it.
It is. And it's also amazing, Pete, how big the move has been in silver this year. And no, this isn't a future story, folks. This is, you know, the silver ETF and everything else. Did you know, Pete, that silver is now the third most valuable asset in the world? Let's have Jared pull up that chart. It shows the top 10 biggest asset classes, Pete. There you've got gold, then you've got NVIDIA, then you've got silver, wow, Apple, Alphabet, Microsoft, Amazon, Bitcoin, Meta, and Broadcom. Those are the 10 biggest asset classes in the world. And silver shot up in there this year with a staggering, I think, 140 some odd % return, Pete. Just incredible.
Yeah, what happened in silver this year is absolutely spectacular, and it basically started at the bottom left and finished at the upper right. And I don't know, John, yet. I mean, there was some people talking about yesterday. Well, now here it comes. Well, turn on today, and yeah, here it comes. It's still going higher. They're still buying options out there in silver, in SLV, and they're still looking for more upside. So I'm still in the camp that it's not over. And there's so much use for silver as well. If you're talking AI, silver is something that actually should be part of that whole conversation.
Well, Pete, we had it for unusual activity again yesterday, believe it or not. Yeah. I mean, I know on the big pullback, 6% pullback yesterday, people were flooding in and they were buying it at the SLV at 64.70. They were buying the 64.50 calls in January. So, yeah, they're not thinking it's over just yet, Pete.
Yeah.
What do you got as far as VIX look today?
Yeah, well, John, it's stuck. And why is it stuck? Because the market's not doing a dang thing. Yes, it's moving a little up, a little down, a little nothing, right? And as we get to the end of the year, liquidity is a bit of an issue as well. We have absolutely dropped off a cliff when it comes to option trading right now, John. I mean, we're talking closer to 49 million. The average so far for December has been over 60 million, and the year to date is over that. So the fact that we're 49 million says a lot, and it's interesting to see where we are. We're not doing a whole heck of a lot, and that's exactly why we're looking at, we could call it 14 to 14 and a half. How about that? That's what the range is as far as the VIX is concerned. So it's down there near the low end for sure.
Well, I thought this was an interesting prediction market call, Pete, especially since I can tie Pete into it because Polymarket has, will anyone be charged over daycare fraud in Minnesota? And so far, Pete, a lot of people, and I will say it, Somalis, have been charged with various types of fraud in Minnesota. But the daycare fraud might be the biggest of all of them, Pete.
Yeah.
Because they had this young guy was going through, and in one day, he found $110 million worth of fraud. One day. He's not an investigative journalist for the New York Times or the Chicago Tribune or New York Post or anything else. He's a YouTuber. And he just went knocking on doors up there in Minnesota, and apparently all you had to do is put out a shingle and say, yeah, we run a daycare here and we can't even spell learning. Instead it's like leering. They forgot the N in learning. And so he was saying, hey, I want to put my kid in daycare here. No, no. And meanwhile, Pete, they're charging like $19,000, almost $20,000 per year per kid. They took in 1.9 million for 99 kids. So you guys could do the math. Again, it's $19,000 per kid and no kids. So anyway, on Polymarket, they said, will anybody be charged? Well, by January 31st, it's a 61% chance, and it went up 20 points in the past day. Yeah, a lot are going to be charged, and they should do something about that, Pete, because, again, in one case, Pete, it was feeding kids that needed, a little more care because maybe their parents couldn't take care of them properly. And in this case, it's daycare, and apparently there's no fraud too big for a certain community up there in Minnesota.
Well, I will say this, John, as a guy who is a Florida resident, but also now I have moved back here because of all the hurricanes and everything else. So I'm back being a Minnesota resident. I can tell you this, our governor, I'll just be blunt, might be the worst governor ever. I mean, ever, anywhere, ever. It's just amazing. And it's unfortunate that it's that. It's not political on my part. It's just looking at things like this, looking at the fact that we had a surplus of money, huge surplus, and now we're in a pretty decent debt. And now we've got all this fraud, and nobody ever really questioned it until basically now. And it's embarrassing. I think we all ought to be embarrassed, and it's unfortunate. There's a lot of reasons why there's a heck of a lot of names going in, John, going for the shot at governor, whether it's on one side of the aisle or the other. There's going to have to be a change, and this is unbelievable what has happened, and it's really unfortunate. And it's unfortunate for a lot of the Somalis that are great people, by the way, many of them. Unfortunately, there's a small group that have gone out there and really just done unbelievably bad things. So it's unfortunate. Nobody's happy about it at all, but it's somebody needs to get on this thing and actually, maybe throw a few people into prison. I mean, this is a bad news deal.
Well, Pete, the rep for the 5th district in Minnesota happens to be Ilhan Omar. Her third husband runs a private equity firm, Pete. I happened to notice that he scrubbed, or somebody at his firm scrubbed, the names of his board members off the website. I'll be posting who those people were prior to the scrubbing later on. But let's just say if you're scrubbing names off of your board for your private equity firm that went from zero just in 2023 to now perhaps being a $25 or $30 million enterprise, I think some of those guys and gals might have some splaining to do. All right. Let's get into some stocks.
Yeah, enough of that.
We'll kick it off with Baidu because big increase. It was up 5% since yesterday. Social media was highlighting that the stock was up big in Hong Kong, Pete, and a premium to its ADRs, American Depository Receipts, because, of course, it is a Chinese-based company, Baidu is. But bullish sentiment, you can't deny that. And certainly a lot of what's going on there is because of data centers and because of what Baidu does on the internet side of things, Pete.
Yeah, I'll tell you what, it's impressive, actually, some of the numbers when you take a look at what Baidu has done. Now, today it's up, 5% or something, maybe a little bit more than that, maybe a little less right now, I'm not sure. But this whole autonomous vehicles and AI and all that, and throw that in there. How about the AI cloud, John? The growth there is 21% year over year. And the revenue growth itself is up 128%. So things are going pretty daggone well right now for Baidu. When you look across at the analysts and what some of those price targets look like, John, they're well above where the stock is, even with the move that we're seeing today. So I think on average, they're looking for something price target of, call it 145, 146, something like that. Started off the day about 125. Now it's back up above 130. So it's getting a little close, but I'll tell you what, are they going to maybe modify some of those numbers and bring them up a little bit higher even than they are? I think that's a possibility because it looks like Baidu is doing many things right now, and the stock is showing that. It's reflecting that as we speak.
For example, Baidu is up 59% year to date, Pete. Like you said, 5% today, but 59% year to date. And in the last month alone, it's up 14%. So pretty nice move. Another nice mover, Pete, Micron. And we did have unusual option activity several times in Micron. The most recent one was this one just from last week, Pete. We also had one from yesterday with Micron. And Micron moving up, up, up. It's, I think it traded through 295 today, Pete, or something like that. It's just a very strong move. And the company, basically, as a chip maker, with the demand for artificial intelligence and data centers, these guys are in the right place at the right time again.
Yep. As the former specialist, Jon, in Micron, I can tell you when this thing likes to run, whoo boy, you better get out of its way because it can run, and it's doing exactly that. I mean, December 17th was when they had their earnings. I think it actually absolutely helped the market, just that one stock, with what they had to say, what they put up there, all the conversations about AI as a bubble and everything else. Well, the gross margins for Micron, 68%. That's a record number for Micron. Their memory, their storage, all of that, Jon. Revenue up 57%. 57% is what I said. And as a matter of fact, how about the earnings? 478, they were looking for 396. Everywhere you look, the demand for these AI servers and memory and all the rest of it, Jon, shows you that Micron is absolutely the savior of the markets and the AI trade, and it gave it one more boost again. And we'll see, how this all plays out as we get into 2026, because we're almost there now. But I would say that Micron certainly, at a time where things were getting a little bit dark, we were seeing a little bit of selling, a little bit more conversation about AI blowing up. I think this relieved that pretty quickly.
Well, Pete, from the April low, the stock was $55, April low. Where is it now? 294, as I said, 294.65 just moments ago, Pete. It's up 250% year to date.
Not so bad.
You can only imagine that if you were somebody like Pete and Jon, and you actually traded in and out several times with options, you probably made a lot more than that, a lot more than 250% on that move. But if you guys want to do that, again, scan that QR code that Jared had up during the unusual, and you'll be able to join us.
Yeah.
All right, Pete. NEO. Shares were up in the pre-market again. They were extending Monday's rally. Basically, comments from William Lee, who said fourth quarter vehicle sales are expected to exceed 30 billion yuan. Now, that's, of course, the Chinese currency, but this one is another monster, Pete. Just like Baidu, these guys are doing seemingly almost everything right, Pete. When you look at BYD or you look at NEO, these kinds of companies that are in that space, you're seeing people really gravitate towards those. And despite that, Elon Musk's Tesla is still screaming higher, and it's because of autonomous, it's because of robo-taxis, and it's because of Optimus, which is operating under the Tesla brand right now, while the Starlink is operating under SpaceX. So Elon's still killing it, but I think NEO doing a pretty good job being a real competitor against Tesla.
And we've had some unusual option activity in that one as well, Jon. So that just yesterday, 14,000 of the 5.5 calls, January 2nd expiring, which is Friday, by the way, they were buying those calls. Now, at the time, they were a little bit out of the money. Now they're in the money. So I'd say that they're doing pretty well. And when you look at what the CEO had to say, he talked about vehicle sales, and you brought up 30 billion yuan. I'll tell you what, Jon, that was well above what people were thinking things were going to look like. The sales numbers were impressive. The CEO didn't even blink about it. And I think that we might see NEO make another run more unusual options up in the 6.5 strike calls. Doesn't mean it's going to get there, but it could start moving there, and those could start moving pretty nicely as well. So Neo, we're seeing a lot of unusual option activity in there, and I'll tell you what, from what the CEO is telling us, things are better than what we are hearing from those people.
Yeah, well, this one is one that should be on your radar, folks, and we're trying to make sure it is at the end of the year. How about this one more, Pete? Down at the special event that we had in December down in Florida, the 10X Wealth Conference, we talked about a bunch of space-related stocks. And turns out 2 of them, Pete, are on our hit parade again for top communication stocks year to date. EchoStar, which is SATS, S-A-T-S, and AST Space Mobile, ASTS, which is going to be competing against Starlink in a pretty big way as we go forward. So I think both of these 2, Pete, deserve your attention, folks. And that's why Jared has them there on the charts there, taking a look at ASTS and again, SATS, S-A-T-S for EchoStar. My gosh, these guys are in right place, right time. So Elon always has competition, Pete. People aren't just going to let him run away with any of this stuff, including robots, by the way. Yeah. But nobody does it better than Elon right now.
Yeah, he's been special. He's been right. He's been, he's head to the grindstone. He continues just to work, John. How about the Alphabet, the fact that they have a piece of this thing as already as well, the $700 million that they've invested in this whole thing. So there's a lot of reasons to be very intrigued by this. I will say one thing that'll probably scare people a little bit, John, is EchoStar's up 360%. And then AST Mobile's up 240%. Very much like some of the numbers that you were just talking about with Micron. Some of those percentage numbers are pretty extraordinary. Can they keep going? They probably can, but will they? Now, I'd love to continue to tell you that we see unusual here and there, and so we'll be keeping an eye on that very closely over time here. But it is interesting to see just how active this part of the world is, because, everybody still says that Tesla is just a car company, John. I think you and I figured out many years ago, it's not just a car company, guys. There's a lot more to Tesla than that. And that's been there the whole time. It's just that people didn't want to recognize that. I still remember sitting there when everybody said, well, the PE of this is ridiculous because look at GM. And it's like, they ain't GM and they're not Ford. This is Tesla, which encompasses a hell of a lot more than that. So interesting to see how well these guys are doing here. I think that people need to pay attention to the satellite companies, John. The services, these things are huge, and they seem like they're going to get even bigger.
And they're going to put a severe hurting on the very people who better buy them, Pete. And that would be T-Mobile, that would be AT&T, and that would be Verizon, because you don't need cell towers if you've got satellite comms. All right. Pete, I know you'll like this one because yesterday you and I talked about when we were looking at the predictive markets, we said, hey, it's pretty amazing, but the Rams were 75-25, 75% chance to win it against Atlanta. Well, somebody didn't tell Kirk Cousins, I guess, Pete. Again, a quarterback you guys just let go.
What do you mean? The quarterback whisperer let him slide away? Along with Sam Darnold, along with Daniel Jones. But, what the hell? He's a hell of a coach.
Yeah, well, you guys got the world's worst ever general manager up there, Pete. Because you and I know coaches coach, but general managers get your players on the field because they got to sign them to contracts. And, everybody was saying, oh, wow, we dodged a bullet there. Kirk Cousins had a great year a couple of years ago, and luckily for us, Atlanta paid him $100 and something million. Hey, if the Vikings might have paid him $100 and something mil, Pete, unless he got hurt, I think you'd be looking at a couple Super Bowl rings right now, because you have Justin Jefferson, and now you guys are going to waste him the same way you wasted Randy Moss. But let's take a look at this commentary about the Atlanta game last night.
Great game.
With the Falcons upsetting the Rams tonight, we could literally see one of the craziest things in NFL history to determine the NFC South winner. And it's all thanks to the Atlanta Falcons and Kirk O'Chains himself.
Kirko.
This is the current standings of the NFC South. You got the Panthers in first, Bucs in second, Falcons in third, Saints in fourth. And guess what we got this weekend? We got a winner-take-all game this weekend. That's what we're thinking. Saturday, we got Panthers.
Winner-take-all, huh?
Winner wins the NFC South, gets into the playoffs. That's the case for the Panthers. For the Bucs, however, they could win this game and still not win the division or make playoffs. Because guess what? If the Falcons beat the Saints on Sunday, it don't matter if the Panthers win or lose this game. They automatically win this division. Due to there being a three-way tie with all three teams being 8-9, and the Panthers have the tiebreaker over the Bucs and the Falcons. This would literally be one of the funniest and craziest things we've ever seen.
I agree.
I don't disagree with them. The fact that they basically can't lock it up, but if this slips, if this happens, then this. I mean, it's you know what? That's a division that all year we've kind of wondered about. And Tampa was leading, right? And Baker Mayfield was having a great year, but things do happen. And sometimes there's injuries. Sometimes they're just not playing to the level that you need to, whatever it might be. But the fact that basically almost all four of those teams could squeeze themselves in, Saints can't. But nonetheless, when you look at that,
3-10 though.
Right, and the records are basically all identical. I mean, it's absolutely crazy. So I've got something for you, John. How about this?
All right.
In the NFL, who right now represents the scariest team in all the NFL? And it's somebody who does not have a great record. They've had a lot of injuries, but they're starting to get pretty damn healthy again. They started a couple weeks ago. I'm going to give you the AFC North Baltimore Ravens. I mean, John, I know their record doesn't look very good. That doesn't look very impressive. And you could say, what are these guys going to do, Pete? Well, I don't know. The last meeting when they played the Pittsburgh Steelers, who they're going to play again, they put up 420 yards on the Steelers. That's a big number at any level, but particularly in the NFL to do that. Unbelievable how good I think that the Ravens can be when they're healthy. And John, Lamar Jackson, how about this? He's only played in 12 games. He's got 18 touchdowns, throw in another 2 that he ran, and then 6 interceptions. This guy is still playing at a very elite level. When he's healthy, when the team is healthy, they're pretty scary. And how about King Henry? I mean, is there anybody like this guy? I mean, I know Saquon's a great running back. This is a guy who spends well over $250,000 a year to be in the kind of shape that he is, John, at 6'3.5" and 255-pound running back. He ran for 1,400 yards this year and 16 touchdowns. I mean, everywhere you look, you go, okay, so you got a good quarterback who can get it to anybody and some damn good receivers. He can run pretty damn good as well. You've got Derrick Henry, who, by the way, against Green Bay, he just put up 216 yards and 4 touchdowns, 4 in the game against the Packers. I think that there's a lot to be said about that. Now, Bijan Robinson had a great game, absolutely great year. All the things that you want to say, everything I think is a positive. I'll tell you what, King Henry is special, and he's a different running back than any running back I have seen because he's so big, he's so fast, he's so good. I think that the Ravens have a legit shot to not only get in the playoffs, John, but might be able to make a nice run on the AFC side of things. I don't know about New England, but everybody else I think is 50-50. What do you think about that? Do you think Baltimore is a pretty scary sleeper?
I think they are, but I've got another that I think you'll like even better, Pete. All right. So where's one of the toughest places to play? If you're a team, and I won't just say if you're in a dome and you have to play outside, because that is tougher for a lot of those teams that just are used to playing inside, and then all of a sudden they need to play outside and they can't do it. But where would you least like to play, Pete, given the weather the way it is right now? Mm-hmm. Not the way it could be, because we both know that you could have in Buffalo, 12 inches of snow.
Easy.
and it could be 0 degrees. And it's been like that several times, just not right now. And Buffalo needed that. So that's why they couldn't do anything against freaking the Eagles. I'll say it, Pete, Denver, altitude. Players that are used to the altitude have an advantage. It's also an outdoor stadium. Players that are used to playing indoors or in warmer weather like Tampa and so forth. You know, there's another team in Florida, Pete, that plays outdoors all the time, Jacksonville Jaguars.
Yep.
What did they do this weekend when they went up and played in Denver? Pretty much crushed the Denver Broncos, who all they were, Pete, was 12-2. They ain't 12-2 anymore. Now they're 12-3. So the Jaguars, 34-20, Pete, took them apart. Trevor Lawrence, 280 yards passing, 3 TDs. How many interceptions?
Yeah.
So I would say, Pete, that is my sleeper, is Trevor Lawrence, and partially because of Hunter, because Travis Hunter is a phenom. Yeah. And I think that team is ready for the playoffs. And, you know, they're walking away with their division, Pete. So it's not like, you know, some of these others, but for them to put a beating on what I thought was one of the top 2 teams, I would have said prior, Pete, that the top 2 teams were Denver and New England. Not anymore.
Yeah.
Not anymore.
I love it. And by the way, first year coach, right? I mean, you know, where did he come from? Let me think. Oh, the Tampa Bay Buccaneers, my old Bucks. This guy is a damn good coach, John. He's done a great job. People just probably haven't even given him the appreciation that they should, because he's done an amazing job. There's a reason why they got rid of their coach and they needed to get a different coach. And look at the turnaround that he's been able to make with this football team and the wins that they've been able to put up there. So I totally agree with you. How about this? There's a school out there, John, where you've basically got a coach who, until I think it was 2019, had only coached high school football. All throughout Texas, this guy was a legend, right? I mean, just unbelievable. Joey McGuire. This guy, all of a sudden, he did everything he could to try to get to the next level, and finally Baylor gave him the opportunity. I think it was 2019. He was there for a few years, and then all of a sudden there was an opening at Texas Tech, and nobody necessarily wanted to talk to this guy. He's basically a high school coach. He had just, you know, he's been around a little bit at Baylor or whatever, and, you know, Coach Rule was going to be leaving, and all those things that were going on. This guy put himself in front of him. He pushed everybody finally got some of these guys to interview him. They sat down, and the second they left the interview, they're like, that's our guy. Every one of them. The biggest donor said, that's our guy. The general manager, the AD said, that's our guy. He goes to Texas Tech. All they've done, John, is get a little bit better and a little bit better and a little bit better. And this guy has them humping. I mean, it's unbelievable how good they are. And every single person who has spoken to him when he's looking for that job walked away and said, I've never been around anybody with that kind of energy. This guy is the right guy. And you and I have talked about them time and time again this year, Texas Tech. It ain't just the offense. It ain't just the defense. They got a linebacker who is arguably somebody who could have been in the running for the Heisman Trophy, quite frankly. He had such a magnificent year. They got nothing about them speaks to the side that they can't win it all. And they might. I mean, it's not going to be easy, but I'll tell you what, John, everybody loves this guy, and all for the right reasons. The other names that they were looking at were big names. They had Mike Leach, they had Art Briles, they had Sonny Dykes, they had all these other guys that had college experience, and yet the billionaire said, let's take him. The AD said, let's take him. The school said, we're going to grab this guy. They did, and all they've done is get a little better. They had one slip up this year against Arizona State. They had a damn good quarterback at Arizona State who carved him up. That was early in the year. I think that they've been able to fix that up pretty well. It's going to be a lot of fun, but Oregon can throw the football. So it's going to be a battle, and it should be a really good one. But I'll tell you what, Texas Tech, don't sleep on them, because this coach has these guys pumped up and ready to play.
Well, Pete, turns out if you have Landman as your backer, which they do, Cody Campbell, And Pete and I talked about it at the beginning of the season because he said, you know what? I'm going to give them whatever it takes. I'm going to write a check as big as they want.
Mm-hmm.
And the school committed like 55 million, Pete. And I think he matched it. I mean, it was just crazy between NIL and scholarships and everything else. And Cody Campbell, folks, if you bother to look him up, the dude pretty much is Landman. He pretty much is exactly Tommy Norris. You know, except he's a combination of Tommy Norris and Jon Hamm. But I love this guy, Pete.
Mm-hmm.
He loved that school, obviously, and he said, there's no reason we can't put a winner on the field every year if we give people the right tools, and part of those tools are money.
It is. It just is, yeah.
I mean, if all of a sudden, Pete, somebody in Minnesota, where Pete matriculated from, if somebody up there wrote a really big check, the Gophers would be right where Texas Tech is.
Yeah.
But they haven't done that. And so, you know, you can't just get a kid a used Impala or whatever as their signing bonus when you walk into Texas, Pete, the University of at Austin, and there are like 7 Lamborghinis lined up and so forth. Then you see these other, you know, teams in the Big Ten and so forth that don't have the money, like Purdue, like Minnesota, I think like Michigan State, Pete, perhaps the worst team in the Big Ten. If you don't have the money for NIL, you can't compete. That's what this Cody Campbell did for Texas Tech. He just said, I'm pushing all in. And that paid off.
Yeah, it's been awesome to watch, and a lot of schools that at least in the past maybe had NIL before NIL, but now with NIL being there, yeah, the numbers are huge. We're seeing just flowing into some of these schools, and other schools not so much. I tell you what, I'm ready to be the GM at whoever if it comes up, because there's a lot of people up here in Minnesota, John, that don't realize how many major companies are here with major dollars that could be writing checks, and they're not. And that needs to change, because they could be very competitive with that. And it's still a pretty good place as far as recruiting. They do a great job, but they would do even better, and enough better to make them more of a 10-win type team than a 7 or 8-win type school. And that changes a lot with the dollars you get from these big bowls that you have out there as well. So should be pretty interesting to watch how things unfold in the offseason.
It will. All right. Well, hopefully somebody's listening and decides to come knocking on Pete's door about GM up there. All right. Thanks for joining us today, folks. We really appreciate it. We will be back tomorrow, I think, right, Pete?
We should be. Yeah. 1 o'clock tomorrow. Yeah.
1 o'clock tomorrow to wind out the year, folks. We'll look for you then. Till then, have a great day.